lens, it might be hard to see on camera. No, you can see it. It's all just super thin, cracked up. This is cracked, that's cracked a little bit. I do need to fix my other piece. So this one's cracked as well. Honestly, it's similar to the one outside. I've been sitting right here prepping this surface with a little carbide burr, and basically I'm just giving it a super rough surface for the resin to adhere to. I also wrote the date, so when I take this off in 10 years, I'll remember. This is broke. My thought is it'll get in here, which will prevent this from being pulled out because it'll bite into the little grooves that I made. So it's right down here. I'm gonna try to beef that up, this whole side, mainly this, because it kind of cracked away a little bit when I wrecked. So that's what we ended up with. This is super built up and beefed up. Obviously I need to trim or file, or I don't know how I'm gonna do this. This whole edge and the bolt little spots need cut out, so I'm gonna try and clean this up. I'm going after this one next. It does locate between these little spots, and I may need to thin out like whatever spot it locates in or whatnot. And files work awesome for this stuff, and you can see each washer, the contact point is like relieved of the resin. It pretty much, it sits perfect. Tried to load it up as much as I could. I can't dig my nail into it, so I think it's good. I'm gonna take it off. I'm sure this will locate. I tried to get down in there best I could, and I'm sure that'll stay in place. There's no way it's gonna move. So I'm gonna take this off, and then I can bring this in the garage. It's just starting to get kind of dark outside, so yeah, we're gonna have to move inside, clean up my mess. I do need another brush. So this is looking good. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'll be able to prep this thing and paint it. I still gotta do some spot putty work, and it looks like them little shiny spots I'm gonna have to sand out. Oh yeah, definitely that, because that is the resin, but it sands off pretty easily. Oh yeah, so there was a couple spots down here where I taped, and I took the tape off, and it's pretty much even. I'll definitely have to primer and spot putty it a little bit, but there's a little spot right there too that I need to hit and smooth out. But other than that, this thing is good. After doing this, I have no doubt in my mind that I would be able to fix the original one that I messed up, because this stuff just builds up, and it is awesome. It really is. This crack's been in the bumper for years. I have been sanding this and prepping it. So everything went good. I brought this out back. This thing's built up. It should be good. Hopefully it didn't leak through this tape too bad on the other side, because I'm not trying to do any body work right now. I am on a mission trying to get this thing done. Got the hatch out here drying. Still got a little bit to do on this. Actually, my dad's been working on it, so shout out to him. This doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I would like for it to be pretty nice and not all scarred up and nasty. Especially with a fresh coat of paint, you'll be able to see any kind of imperfection. So I just brought the bumper back up here and peeled the tape off. Actually, it looks pretty good. It's like super smooth, and I may touch it up with just a little brush with the same color paint, but I don't want to paint this. I don't have time. I actually need to paint it here. Maybe a little bit of spot putty, because I hit a little boom lift thing down in Miami. So bumper is on, and two bolts actually fell out of this little air piece, and I put two more back in. These are still loose. Everything's still loose holding the bumper on, because I want this stuff to cure up, and I'm not driving this anytime soon, so we're just gonna let this harden up. So I think I'm gonna sand on this piece a little bit. So this thing's been sitting in the corner all night with the fan on it, and hopefully it's dry. I had the spot putty and primer. I'm guessing this is spot putty. It kept cracking up. After like an hour, it would crack. I'd sand it out, and then it'd crack more, and it would like lift, and you could see it when you painted it. So I'm hoping it's dry and I'm gonna paint this thing today. So after really looking at it, it's held up super well and it barely cracked more. Last night it was cracking way more than this, so I'm just gonna barely sand this just to make sure everything's flat, and this thing's ready for paint. It's super smooth. It's real hard to tell any imperfections, and with that satin paint, I don't think I'll be able to see hardly any of them. This is the piece that I painted, which is literally perfect. There's a small imperfection on this end. You might be able to see it, but other than that, it is awesome. So I got that mount on there, which is on the other side as well. And I put anti-seize on them bolts. I put anti-seize on these bolts, which are right here. And I'm gonna bolt this thing on and then put this thing on my van, and we should be done. So this, I think, wraps it up for this part. I did fix this the other day, which I'm anxious to kind of see it with the bumper on the van. You can tell that it's more red, which I need to buff out the rest of the van to hopefully match. And yeah, this looks super well. So I had to modify it. You can see all around the edge how I had to grind, and I had to grind the where the threads are because they were a little bit too long. I don't know how this thing changed so much between when I mounted it up. Maybe I just didn't mount it up good when I fiberglassed it. I'm gonna put this on real quick and show you guys that it's good. What I was going off of was that gap in the bumper, and I measured them and I got them the exact same. You can see that gap, which I may need to get a little paintbrush in there and paint that, just because it's a little bit torn up from wrecking it. And that gap, and I measured them, and they're each about 3 millimeters, so I can live with that. You can't tell that it was wrecked at all, and the paint's the exact same color. Everything is good with this side. So there is a little crack right there, but like I said, when I get the little brush, I'm gonna brush over this, and minus that, I'll forget about this whole thing. This piece of rubber it has a gap, maybe like a 3 millimeter gap in between the mount and this. And this is so if you step on it, or if you put any kind of load, basically step on it, it's gonna soak it up, and it's gonna be a little bit of a support for this fiberglass. So there's a screw right there. So them two mounting locations are the only spot that this mounts on, which is kind of chintzy, but I guess that's all you get. And I guess over here to the body. But my thought was, if this had a bumper, it would scoot this whole thing that way, because it would be spaced, and then this would actually hit. And I'm thinking that I'm missing a bumper in between there because of this. I don't think that gap is just, it just doesn't seem right. Got the bracket off, and it's only these 2 bolts, just 8 millimeter. And actually I wanted to point this out. So this is a flathead screw, and I had to make one for the bottom of this bumper. So I basically just turned off the 90-degree part and have a super shallow screw, and I couldn't find one, so I just made up this one probably a couple years ago on the lathe. I just turned it off. I cheated. I already marked it, so I just, you know, did one of them and kind of circled around, got the little spot right there. Looks pretty good, actually, this way. So I'm gonna lightly, there we go. So this should make a perfect hole. There you go. So the 8 millimeter will fit perfectly through that, and we're all good. This will make that adhesive back stuff stick like crazy.